The alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m., but Tyler Henderson was already awake. 20 years of flying commercial routes had trained his body to anticipate the early morning routine. He rolled out of bed in his pristine suburban Dallas home, careful not to wake Jennifer, and headed to the bathroom where everything waited in perfect order. His reflection stared back from the mirror above the marble vanity. Sharp jawline, graying temples that added distinguished authority to his 45 years, and eyes that had seen countless sunrises from 35,000 feet. Tyler adjusted his posture, practicing the confident stance that had become second nature. "Looking good, Captain," he whispered to himself, straightening an invisible wrinkle from his undershirt. The morning ritual began with precision. Shower with expensive cologne-scented body wash, shave with the German razor Jennifer had bought him for their anniversary, hair styled with pomade that cost more than most people spent on groceries, every movement deliberate, calculated to project success. In the walk-in closet, his uniforms hung like soldiers at attention. Tyler selected today's outfit with the same care a surgeon chose instruments. The navy jacket bore 4 golden stripes that marked him as captain, his proudest achievement and heaviest burden. He pinned his wings above the left pocket, feeling their weight despite knowing they were hollow metal. The expensive Swiss watch came next, its face catching morning light streaming through Venetian blinds. Tyler had saved for months to afford it, telling Jennifer it was a necessary professional investment. The truth sat deeper. It was armor against the memories of rusty alarm clocks and hand-me-down clothes from his childhood in East Texas. Downstairs, the coffee maker had already brewed his morning fuel. Tyler poured it into his personalized mug, a gift from the Pilots Association, and reviewed the day's passenger manifest on his tablet. Flight 447 to JFK. First class showed familiar names: Senator Morrison, tech executive Patricia Caldwell, and oil company Vice President Robert Chase. These passengers mattered. Their approval meant invitations to charity galas, country club recommendations, access to the circles that still felt beyond his reach. "Another beautiful day in the friendly skies," Tyler said to the empty kitchen, practicing the warm captain's voice that passengers loved. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, his co-pilot. "New crew member today, Isabella Rivera, fresh out of training." Tyler frowned slightly. New crew meant uncertainty, broken rhythms, potential complications. He preferred experienced teams who understood the unspoken rules of commercial aviation. Rookies asked too many questions and disrupted the carefully orchestrated performance he'd perfected. The drive to Dallas-Fort Worth International took 40 minutes through sparse pre-dawn traffic. Tyler used the time to mentally prepare, adjusting his accent to remove any lingering traces of the rural drawl that marked his origins. By the time he pulled into the crew parking lot, Captain Tyler Henderson was fully armored for another day of commanding respect in the skies. The terminal buzzed with early morning energy. Ground crews prepped aircraft under massive floodlights while gate agents prepared for the day's first departures. Tyler walked through it all with measured confidence, nodding to familiar faces who called out respectful greetings. "Morning, Captain Henderson. Have a great flight today, Ty. Coffee's fresh in the crew room, Captain." Each acknowledgement fed the persona he'd built over 2 decades. This was his kingdom, his domain where competence and authority mattered more than bloodlines or family money. Here, in the controlled environment of commercial aviation, Tyler Henderson commanded the respect he'd never received growing up in that rusted trailer park where neighbors looked down on his family's struggles. The crew briefing room felt different when Tyler walked in at 6:15 a.m. Marcus was already there, reviewing weather reports, but beside him sat a woman Tyler had never seen before. She looked up with warm brown eyes and a genuine smile that immediately caught his attention. "Captain Henderson," Marcus said, standing. "Meet Isabella Rivera, our new flight attendant." Isabella rose gracefully, extending her hand with professional confidence. "It's an honor to work with you, Captain. I've heard wonderful things about your crew." Her voice carried the musical inflections of Puerto Rico, each syllable flowing with an accent that Tyler's mind immediately cataloged as foreign. Something in his chest tightened, not attraction, but the defensive instinct he'd developed over years of protecting his carefully constructed image. "Welcome aboard," Tyler said, shaking her hand briefly. "Hope you're ready for a busy day." "Absolutely, sir. I've reviewed all the safety protocols for this aircraft type, Sai, and I'm fluent in Spanish if we have any passengers who need assistance." Marcus nodded approvingly. "That'll be helpful. We get quite a few international travelers on the JFK route." Tyler studied Isabella as she opened her flight manual. 28, maybe 30, professional uniform, crisp and properly fitted. Her movements suggested competence, but that accent, it grated against his carefully tuned sensibilities. In first class, passengers expected a certain level of sophistication. They wanted crew members who sounded like they belonged in their world. "Let's review today's passenger manifest," Tyler said, pulling up the list on his tablet. "We've got some important travelers in first class. Senator Morrison, Patricia Caldwell from Tech, Robert Chase from Petroleum. They expect premium service." "Of course, Captain," Isabella replied. "I understand the importance of providing excellent service to all our passengers." Something in her emphasis on all struck Tyler as naive. She'd learned soon enough that not all passengers were equal. Some required special attention, careful pronunciation, the kind of polished interaction that built careers and opened doors. During the safety briefing, Isabella demonstrated thorough knowledge of emergency procedures. She knew evacuation routes, oxygen systems, and emergency equipment locations by heart. When a Spanish-speaking ground crew member approached with a question about cargo, she answered fluently, her voice becoming even more animated in her native language. Tyler watched this exchange with growing irritation. The musical quality of her Spanish seemed to emphasize everything he found distracting about her English. It was too much, too vibrant, too different, too likely to draw attention from passengers who expected understated professionalism. "Marcus," Tyler said quietly as Isabella finished her conversation, "make sure our new crew member understands the importance of maintaining appropriate communication standards with passengers." Marcus looked puzzled. "She seems very professional to me, Captain." Tyler activated the recording system for their pre-flight check, standard procedure for quality assurance. "I'm sure she is. Just want to make sure she understands our particular clientele's expectations." As they completed their checklist, Isabella's headset crackled with Tyler's voice from the cockpit. He was speaking to Marcus, unaware that the intercom was broadcasting to all crew stations. "Hopefully our new attendant can tone down that colorful way of speaking English before we get to New York. First-class passengers tend to prefer a more refined approach to service." Isabella's hand froze over her safety manual. The words hit her like physical blows, each syllable a reminder of every classroom where teachers had asked her to repeat herself, every job interview where qualifications mattered less than accents. But years of experience had taught her to maintain composure under pressure. She took a deep breath, adjusted her headset, and continued her pre-flight preparations with steady hands. The hurt in her eyes remained hidden behind professional resolve, but something fundamental had shifted in the dynamic of Flight 447's crew. Over the next 3 weeks, Tyler's comments became a steady drip of condescension. During the Tuesday flight to Boston, he suggested Isabella practice standard pronunciation when addressing business travelers. On Thursday's Miami route, he recommended she dial back the enthusiasm when greeting passengers. By the following Monday, he was openly discussing her different approach to service with other crew members. "I'm just maintaining professional standards," Tyler told Marcus during their Denver layover. "First-class passengers expect a certain level of polish." Isabella absorbed each comment like a researcher collecting data, her notebook, hidden in her crew bag, filled with dates, times, and exact quotes. She'd earned her psychology degree from Universidad de Puerto Rico with honors, writing her thesis on workplace discrimination patterns. Now she found herself living inside her own case study. "May I work the overnight shift for crew training?" Isabella asked scheduling supervisor Linda Chen. "I'd like to observe different passenger demographics." "You're incredibly dedicated," Linda replied, impressed. "Most new hires try to avoid extra hours." Isabella smiled. "I believe in thorough preparation." Each additional shift meant more opportunities to document Tyler's behavior, but also more exposure to his increasingly pointed remarks. She stayed late studying emergency procedures, volunteered for weekend routes, and maintained flawless passenger service ratings. Her work ethic became legendary among ground crews. Meanwhile, Tyler's flight supervisor praised him during their monthly review. "Great job maintaining discipline on your flights, Captain. Passengers have mentioned how well organized your crew appears." Tyler left the meeting feeling validated. His methods were working, professional standards mattered, and someone had to enforce them. The Spanish workbook on Jennifer's nightstand felt like a betrayal. Tyler discovered it on a Thursday evening, pages marked with careful notes and pronunciation guides. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, holding up the book. Jennifer looked up from her laptop, surprised by his tone. "Spanish lessons. Our new neighbors, the Morales family, have been so kind. I thought it would be nice to communicate better with Maria when she brings over her homemade tamales." "You're learning Spanish," Tyler's voice rose. "For neighbors? What's wrong with that? They're lovely people, Tyler. Dr. Morales is a cardiologist, and Maria teaches elementary school. Their daughter Sophia is the same age as our niece." Tyler paced the bedroom, his carefully constructed calm cracking. "I forbid it. You're not continuing these lessons." Jennifer stared at him. "You forbid it? Tyler, what's gotten into you?" "Nothing's gotten into me. I just don't want my wife speaking like—" He stopped himself, but the damage was done. "Like what, Tyler? Like our neighbors? Like the people who invited us for dinner twice and helped when our sprinkler system broke?" The argument stretched late into the night, revealing fault lines Jennifer had never noticed in their 18-year marriage. She began watching Tyler differently, seeing the tension in his shoulders when diverse families walked past their country club table, noticing his discomfort during community events. 3,000 miles away, Isabella sat in her Puerto Rico apartment, speaking softly into her phone. "Papa, I need you to trust me on this. Don't intervene yet." Carlos Rivera gripped his phone tighter. "Mija, listening to you describe this man's behavior, it takes everything in me not to call him directly." "I know, Papa, but this needs to happen the right way. Give me time." Flight 447 to Miami carried a full first-class cabin, including Eduardo Rodriguez, founder of Tech Vision Solutions and one of the most influential Latino executives in America. Tyler noticed his name on the manifest but didn't recognize the man settling into seat 2A with his Wall Street Journal. During beverage service, Tyler's voice carried from the galley where he spoke with Marcus. "Make sure our enthusiastic attendant doesn't get too chatty with the passengers up here. Sometimes her colorful commentary can be overwhelming for business travelers." Isabella approached with professional grace, offering Rodriguez his requested coffee. "Here you are, sir. Please let me know if you need anything else." "Thank you," Rodriguez replied in perfect English, then added warmly in Spanish, "Su servicio es excelente." Isabella's face lit up. "Muchas gracias, señor. Es un placer atenderle." Tyler appeared from the cockpit, ostensibly checking cabin conditions but clearly monitoring the interaction. "Everything under control back here?" he asked, his tone suggesting Isabella might be lingering too long. Rodriguez observed the exchange with the sharp attention that had built his empire. He recognized the subtle dynamics, the careful way Isabella maintained professionalism despite the captain's obvious disapproval of her natural warmth. After landing, Rodriguez requested complaint forms at the gate. His letter to Skyline's executive office was precise, detailed, and sent directly to the CEO's personal assistant with copies to the board of directors. Isabella learned about the complaint through connections she hadn't revealed. Instead of celebrating, she intensified her documentation, sensing that external pressure might finally create the accountability Tyler had avoided. The turbulence hit without warning over the Colorado Rockies. Flight 447 dropped 300 feet in seconds, sending unsecured items flying and passengers into panic. Tyler fought the controls while Marcus called out altitude changes. But in the cabin, chaos erupted. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm and keep your seatbelts fastened." Isabella's voice cut through the screaming with steady authority. She moved through the aisles despite the violent shaking, checking passengers with the balance of an experienced sailor. An elderly man in 12C clutched his chest, hyperventilating. Isabella knelt beside him, speaking in soothing English while gesturing for his wife to breathe slowly. When she realized the woman spoke only Spanish, Isabella seamlessly switched languages, explaining the breathing technique while maintaining physical contact with both passengers. "Sir, you're having an anxiety response, not a heart attack," she told the man clearly. "Focus on my voice. In through your nose, out through your mouth." A child began crying in the back. Isabella called out in Spanish to the mother, giving instructions for comforting the boy while she continued treating the panicked passenger. She coordinated with other flight attendants through hand signals, directing them to secure loose items and check seatbelts. Tyler could hear everything through his headset. Isabella's voice remained steady, professional, and effective while managing multiple crises simultaneously. She spoke to passengers in English, Spanish, and broken French, keeping them calm through the worst turbulence Tyler had experienced in years. When the air finally smoothed, Tyler realized something uncomfortable. Isabella had demonstrated skills that many 20-year veterans lacked. Her crisis management was textbook perfect, her multilingual abilities genuinely valuable, and her composure under pressure exceptional. For the first time, doubt crept into his assumptions. Tyler began noticing peculiar patterns in Isabella's behavior. When premium international routes opened up, assignments that could double a flight attendant's monthly income, she consistently declined. Instead, she requested domestic flights serving cities with large Latino populations: Los Angeles, Phoenix, San Antonio, El Paso. Strange career strategy, Tyler mentioned to Marcus during their Phoenix layover. Most attendants fight for those international routes. Maybe she has family obligations, Marcus suggested. Tyler assumed financial troubles. New employees often struggled with expenses, and Isabella's preference for shorter domestic flights suggested someone avoiding overnight costs in expensive foreign cities. During a weather delay in Chicago, Tyler overheard Isabella's phone conversation near the gate. She spoke rapidly in Spanish, using business terms he recognized. La empresa, decisiones importante, estrategia a largo plazo. Her tone carried authority that seemed mismatched with her junior position. Sí, entiendo las implicaciones, Isabella said, checking her watch. Pero necesito más tiempo para observar las operaciones diarias. Tyler caught fragments about company decisions and long-term strategy, but his limited Spanish missed the context. He assumed she was discussing family business troubles, perhaps a restaurant or small store requiring difficult decisions. Maria Santos, Isabella's colleague from training, joined them during boarding. You must have learned your leadership skills from a very special family, she told Isabella admiringly. The way you handled that turbulence yesterday was incredible. Isabella smiled mysteriously. My father always taught me that true leaders serve from any position. Tyler filed away these observations, sensing layers beneath Isabella's surface that didn't align with his initial assumptions, though his prejudices prevented him from considering the obvious truth. The company-wide memo arrived on a Tuesday morning, sending shockwaves through Skyline Airways. New majority investors have acquired controlling interest and will implement significant cultural changes throughout all operations, it read. Tyler's coffee grew cold as he studied the announcement from his kitchen table. Comprehensive performance reviews will begin immediately, the memo continued, including 360-degree feedback from all crew members, ground staff, and passenger evaluations. Tyler's hands trembled slightly. 20 years of building his reputation, and now every person he'd ever worked with would have input on his future. The thought of Isabella's potential feedback made his stomach clench. Within days, Isabella volunteered for the evaluation committee. I'd like to contribute to creating a more equitable workplace, she told HR Director Patricia Wells. Excellent, Patricia replied. And we need people committed to positive change. Tyler watched this development with growing unease. A junior employee influencing senior evaluations seemed backwards, but the new ownership apparently valued different perspectives. The prestigious assignment came Friday afternoon. Chief Flight Operations requested Tyler captain a demonstration flight for the new company leadership. Show them our best, the message read. Our CEO Carlos Rivera wants to experience our premium service firsthand. Tyler felt relief and opportunity. This was his chance to impress new management, secure his position, perhaps even advance. The crew assignment included Isabella as head flight attendant, an honor typically reserved for 10-year veterans. Tyler accepted without question, focused on his own opportunity to shine, rather than wondering why a rookie received such responsibility. Carlos Rivera boarded Flight 447 as just another first-class passenger to Tyler, who focused on impressing this important CEO, rather than recognizing the man whose daughter he'd been tormenting for months. Carlos settled into seat 1A, observing everything with the sharp attention that had built his empire. Tyler's performance began immediately. During pre-flight announcements, he interrupted Isabella's safety demonstration. Perhaps we could have standard pronunciation for our VIP passengers today, he said over the intercom, audible throughout the cabin. Isabella maintained her professionalism, continuing the demonstration flawlessly, while Carlos watched his daughter endure public humiliation with grace that made his chest ache with pride and fury. The breaking point came during beverage service. Tyler's voice crackled through the cabin speakers as he spoke to Marcus. Forgetting the intercom was active. Make sure our attendant tones down that exotic chatter today. We want our new CEO to see professional service, not some colorful ethnic performance. The cabin fell silent. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Carlos Rivera's knuckles whitened as he gripped his armrest. Then Carlos stood, moving toward Isabella with purposeful strides. "¿Cómo está mi princesa?" he asked warmly, opening his arms. Isabella's face transformed with genuine joy. "Papa!" She embraced him, speaking rapid Spanish about how proud she was that he could finally see her work. Tyler's hands began shaking on the controls as the horrifying truth crashed over him. The woman he'd spent months demeaning was the daughter of the man who now controlled his career, his future, everything he'd worked to build crumbling in that single moment of recognition. After landing, Carlos Rivera requested a private meeting in the executive conference room. Tyler walked to his execution with leaden feet, expecting immediate termination and public disgrace. Instead, Carlos presented an unexpected proposition. 3 months, Carlos said quietly. "Sire, you'll work as co-pilot under Isabella's supervision, flying routes throughout Latino communities in Texas, Florida, and California. Learn to respect the cultures you've mocked. Prove you can change. If you succeed, you keep your rank. If not, you're terminated." Tyler's initial reaction was pure outrage. "You want me supervised by my daughter?" "Yes, the woman whose competence you've questioned for months." The humiliation burned through Tyler's chest. Being supervised by someone he'd considered inferior felt like career suicide. "I won't be anyone's charity case." "Then quit," Carlos replied calmly. "Your choice." Tyler's phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Heard about today from Patricia Wells. Either you become a better man or I'm filing for divorce. No more excuses." His world collapsed completely. Career hanging by a thread, marriage dissolving, reputation destroyed. The trailer park kid he'd tried so hard to bury was about to lose everything he'd fought to achieve. "Fine," Tyler whispered through gritted teeth. 3 months. Carlos nodded. "Isabella will brief you on your first assignment Monday morning. Don't disappoint her again." Tyler left the meeting seething with resentment, wounded pride warring with desperate survival instinct as he faced the complete inversion of everything he'd believed about power, respect, and worth. The next 3 months became Tyler's graduate education in humility. Isabella assigned him routes connecting Latino communities across the Southwest, each flight a masterclass in shattering his preconceptions. She forced him to interact directly with passengers, learn basic Spanish phrases, and listen to stories that demolished his carefully constructed prejudices. On the Tuesday El Paso route, Tyler met Dr. Carmen Valdez, a neurosurgeon traveling to perform pediatric brain surgery. Her accent was stronger than Isabella's, yet she discussed medical procedures with precision that humbled him. The Houston flight introduced him to Miguel Santos, a software engineer with 3 degrees who spoke 4 languages fluently while managing a tech startup worth millions. "Buenos dias, Captain." Passengers greeted him, their warmth genuine despite his obvious discomfort. Isabella insisted he respond in Spanish, coaching him through pronunciation while passengers smiled encouragingly at his efforts. Each flight brought new revelations. The woman he'd assumed was a housekeeper turned out to be a federal judge. The man speaking animated Spanish was discussing quantum physics research. The teenage girl with the heavy accent was heading to MIT for early admission interviews. "You look surprised," Isabella observed during their Phoenix layover, watching Tyler study passenger boarding passes with confusion. "I just assumed different things about people." Based on what? Tyler couldn't answer honestly. His assumptions had been based on fear, insecurity, and the defensive mechanisms he'd built to protect himself from feeling inferior. The breaking point came on a December flight to El Paso. Turbulence delayed their arrival, and Tyler found himself sitting beside Isabella in the empty cabin, both exhausted from managing anxious passengers. The walls he'd built over decades finally cracked. "I grew up in a trailer park," he whispered, staring at his hands. Rusted aluminum siding, broken air conditioning, neighbors who looked down on us for being poor white trash. "I spent my whole career terrified someone would find out, would see through this uniform to the scared kid who wore secondhand clothes and ate government cheese." Isabella listened without judgment as 20 years of pain poured out. "Making others feel small made me feel bigger," Tyler continued. "If I could find something wrong with them first, maybe they wouldn't notice everything wrong with me." Isabella was quiet for a long moment. You want to know something? In college, my wealth made other Latino students suspicious. They thought I was trying to buy my way into their struggles. But my ethnicity made wealthy white students treat me like an imposter in their world. I understood feeling caught between identities, never quite belonging anywhere. The honesty between them bridged 20 years of defensive barriers, creating the foundation for genuine understanding neither had expected. 6 months after Tyler's probation began, Skyline Airways held a ceremony reinstating him to captain rank. The assembled crowd included crew members, executives, and passengers whose lives he'd touched during his transformation. Carlos Rivera personally pinned the 4th stripe back on Tyler's uniform. Character isn't about never falling, Carlos said to the audience. It's about how we choose to rise. In a moment that surprised everyone, Isabella appeared beside Tyler wearing her own captain's uniform. During his probation, she'd completed accelerated commercial pilot certification, earning her wings through night school and weekend training. Carlos promoted her to director of flight operations, making her the youngest Latina executive in commercial aviation history. Ready for takeoff, Captain Rivera? Tyler asked as they prepared for her first official flight as his co-pilot. Ready when you are, Captain Henderson. Their roles had evolved beyond supervision into genuine partnership. Tyler had discovered that Isabella's insights about passenger psychology and crew management surpassed his own experience-based knowledge. She had learned that beneath his defensive prejudices lived a skilled pilot capable of profound growth. Tyler accepted a new position as head of Skyline's Cultural Competency in Aviation program, training pilots and crew members across the industry. His presentations at aviation conferences became legendary, not for technical expertise, but for his unflinching honesty about the psychology of prejudice and the possibility of redemption. Discrimination isn't about bad people making evil choices, he would tell audiences. It's about frightened people building walls to protect themselves from their own insecurities. The question isn't whether you have prejudices, it's whether you're brave enough to examine them. At home, Tyler and Jennifer's marriage emerged stronger from near collapse. She completed her international relations degree with Tyler's enthusiastic support, eventually joining the State Department's cultural exchange program. Their dinner table now featured conversations in Spanish, Jennifer practicing with confidence while Tyler struggled through basic phrases that made Isabella laugh during their weekly family dinners. The Morales family had become close friends, their children treating Tyler and Jennifer like additional grandparents. Dr. Morales occasionally flew with Tyler's crew, their friendship built on mutual respect rather than defensive posturing. On quiet Sunday mornings, Tyler would sit in his backyard with coffee, listening to the sound of aircraft engines overhead. The noise that once represented escape from his origins now reminded him of bridges built rather than barriers maintained. The aroma from Maria Morales' kitchen drifted over the fence, no longer triggering defensive reactions but genuine appreciation for the richness that diversity brought to his previously narrow world. Carlos Rivera used Tyler's transformation as a case study in corporate conferences, demonstrating how accountability combined with education could create more powerful change than punishment alone. The aviation industry began implementing similar programs, with Tyler and Isabella leading workshops that transformed company cultures from coast to coast. The scared trailer park kid had finally found his true home, not in the artificial heights of manufactured superiority, but in the genuine connections formed when fear gives way to understanding.